Okay, in this tutorial, what we're going to go over here is actions. In the previous tutorial to this, I actually touched on actions. So I want to basically just go in depth with an action and what they are required for. I'm just quickly trashing these actions here so I can recreate them for you and show you the principle of actions. The purpose of an action is basically to run a series of steps or actions, and that can be recorded and played again for future use. So if I do something often, rather than manually doing it over and over again, I can actually record the things that I do, and then just by simply hitting this little play button, it'll run through the actions automatically and perform that action for me. This speeds up your workflow process a lot quicker, especially when it comes to photographers. I know we often want to put a watermark on our images. This is the perfect tool to use for watermarks, for batch processing. So for one or two items you can just run an action. I'll then show you how to apply this action within a batch process, you can basically select an entire folder of images and it'll apply that action to all of those images without having to open each one individually and push play. So actions will speed up things, batch processing will speed them up even further. If you search on Google or any search engine, you can just search for Photoshop actions. You'll be able to find various different actions that people have created and uploaded, and to allow you to download them for free as well. So you can use those to get you started. When you get a bit more familiar with actions, or you have a specific style or way of working that you would like to record specific to your own needs, you can create your own actions, which is what I'm going to show you how to do today. But one item to remember when creating an action is that an action is created specific to the document that you are creating it in. So for example, I'm going to create a new document here, and I'm going to create it as an A4 size document, 297 with 304 pixels per inch, and this will basically create an action specific to this size file. If the file I'm wanting to apply this action to varies in size or resolution, it won't work the same. So let me show you here. I'll go OK, and I'm going to create a border for this. So once again, I'm creating a border. I'm going to select the select tool. I'm going to click and drag a selection across the whole page, and I'm going to go up to select and say modify border. Well, let's record this. I'm going to create an action here. Let me just deselect this, and I'm going to create a new action. Let's just create a border action. So let's go up to this little pull-down menu here in the actions palette, and we say new action. I'm going to call this A4 border. Okay, hit record. And now when I'm recording, we'll hit enter, and when I'm recording, it'll then indent this little selection here, and the record button will actually show in color. Before, it was grayed out like the rest of these buttons. That shows now that any action I perform is going to then be listed underneath this heading A4 border. So I'm going to select the select tool. I'm going to click and drag a selection, and you'll see now it says I've set a selection, and it's set a specific size selection. It's 297 big and it's 209, so it's setting specifics. So when I apply this action to another document, it's still going to be applying specifics. The location of this selection is 0 millimeters and 0 millimeters top and left. So if I look at my rulers here, let's just enlarge this and move this over to the corner here. If I look at my rulers, 0 and 0 would be the top left hand corner, is where it's taking these coordinates from. So whatever page you apply it on, it's going to take it relative to the top left corner, and it's going to apply the selection to that size. Okay, from here I'm going to now create a border of the selection. So I'm going to say modify border, and I'm going to want a 100 pixel border. So I say OK. So it's now enlarged that selection to create a 100 pixel border. So it's now actually made this border left and right 50 pixels outside of the page, 50 pixels inside of the page. So in theory, if you want a 100 mil border, you'd have to make a 200 mil or 200 pixel border. But for this sake right now, we'll just leave it at a 50 pixel border, and I'm going to fill that with the color. So let's fill, and white on white's not going to work, so I'm going to select color. My current foreground and background is grey and black, which doesn't make it too delightful, so I'm going to add a color to it. Let's just leave it at blue, so OK, and hit OK. So there it is, it's filled that selection with a blue border. So now I can say select, deselect, or Control Command D, whichever you're on, PC or Mac, and that is the action completed. So I can now say stop, because I want to stop recording what I'm doing. And if I go back in my history, click on the original document that I created. If I run this action now, I can run it to see if it's going to work properly. So I go to the actual action name, not the tasks within the action. The action name, I select that and I hit play. It'll then run all those tasks and it's done. So as long as it took us to create this border, it's now just done within a few seconds. Now to illustrate that I've created this with specific sizes, how it's not going to work, I'm going to create another document. And I'm just going to make this one really small. So let's just make it 100 mils by 100 mils. So it's a little square document, hit OK. And now I'm going to run this border action on this document. It's a different size, let's see what happens. Okay, so it's run it relative to the top left, and because it's 210 big or 297 deep, it's running off my page. So you can see that action isn't working for this size document. So with an action, it helps you create a generic format to compensate for all elements. So let me just delete this. I'm going to delete it with white. Okay. Just to reset it, or I can go back in the history here too, I guess. And I'm going to go back to this window here and I'm going to reset this. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create an action that'll be the same action, but it'll be then relevant to both size documents. So it'll be more versatile. I can use it on more than one size document. So let's go to actions. This is an A4 border. I'm now going to create a new action and I'm going to call it 50 pixel border. So regardless of the document, it's going to create a 50 pixel border. So I hit record and I can then go in action again. Instead of selecting my selection tool and clicking and dragging a specific size, I'm going to use a generic command which will be select all. So regardless of the size of the document, it's going to select the entire page area. If you look down the set section here, it will say select all. So that in contrast to this, which is saying I've selected a specific size, you're now getting an understanding of how to make a universal action rather than a specific size action for a specific size document. So I've made a selection, and the rest I can just do exactly as I did before. Select, modify, border, 100 pixels, OK. Edit, and fill. I'm going to fill it with a color again. Just leave it a blue and say OK. And I'm going to deselect that selection. Okay, push stop. So if you look at that, let me just drag this down. Those two actions there, the steps are very similar. Set, border, fill, set selection. The only difference is the way the selection was made. So the first one was a specific size selection that was drawn with the marquee tool or rectangular selection tool, and the other one was just a generic select all command. Okay, let's see what effect this has on this different size document. Well, let's test it on the A4 first. I'll go back in my history to the original document and let's run this 50 pixel border and let's hit play. It works perfectly on here. Let's check the 100mm by 100mm border, hit play, and it's also 50mm or 50 pixel border. So here you can see how it really works universally for all documents. I can also change, depending on my document size, for an A4, 50 pixels looks quite balanced. It doesn't overcommand the size of the document, whereas for a smaller document, the border might be a bit thick. So I might want to add an option to manually select the size of the border before I submit it, or before I finalize the border. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this select all command. Let me just set my history back on this document, and I'm going to come down in my actions here. Once I've created actions, I can then edit them. I can add actions into this set of playlist, or I can take actions out of the playlist. So what I want to do is I want to add an action after this, and I'm going to put in a command. I'm going to tell it to do, or I'm going to tell it to tell me to do something. So I'm going to insert a stop, and I'm going to put a message in here saying go to select menu and select modify border and add required pixel, let's just write it in full, pixel sized border. Okay, so if I don't want to do this, well, for this action I'm going to want to perform this action, and I'm going to have to erase the actual process of creating a border, otherwise it's going to duplicate the border twice. But if I have an action that I've created where I don't want to go and manually select something, I can then allow myself to continue this command. So I'm going to put this continue button in here, but I won't use it this time. So I'm going to say continue. It'll add a continue button on this command, and I'm going to say OK, and it's added that stop into this action here. So I'm going to delete this border function here because I don't want to create a border after I've created a border, because I'm going to manually go and select what size I want. Well, I won't delete this, I'll just switch it off. So I can also, instead of trashing it, I can use it again later. So rather than use it now, I'm just going to turn that command off, and I'm going to run this action again. So I hit play, and it's going to run this action up to that stop point and give me an instruction. So hit play, it's going to say go to select menu, select modify border, add required pixel size border. So if I don't want to do that, I can say continue, and it'll continue with the rest of the action, or I'll say stop, it'll then stop the action. I can then come up here and say select modify border, and I can then adjust it and put in, say, a 50 pixel border, and say OK. This one is turned off, so it's not going to action on this command here. So I can just come back here. Once I've done that, I can just continue and say play, and it'll play the rest of the action. So it'll put in the fill and deselect. Okay, if I do action put this selection on here, you'll see it's going to duplicate what I've done there. I'm going to go back in my history and run this action again. Come on. Okay, and I'm going to say play. It's going to give me an instruction. I'll say maybe I don't want to go and change it. I just want to have the 100 pixel one. So I can even let me do that. I'm going to stop here. I'm going to change the stop instruction here. I'm going to delete that one, and I'm going to put a new stop instruction in there. I'm going to say insert stop, and I'll say to customize border width, go to select menu and choose modify border and set pixel width or border width. Okay, I can add a continue instruction saying default will be 100 pixels. If you want default size, just press continue. I'm going to add another instruction in here too, saying to customize border, go to select menu, choose modify. Okay. Before pressing play again, select fill step to nullify, if that's the word, border action, border automated action. Okay, so I've got a whole bunch of instructions there. I'm going to say put a continue button in, so okay, and I'm going to run this whole thing. I've got the automated border still selected to play, so I'm going to run this as it is. So I'm going to say play, so it'll give me a whole instruction now what to do. So to customize your border width, go to the select menu, choose modify border, set border width, and then before I push play again, I must select the fill step. So I'm going to skip this border step and select fill, and it'll then push play. If I want the default to be 100 pixels, then I must just press continue. So let's try the default first. I don't want to go and customize the border width. I just want to do the default. So I'm just going to say continue, and it'll continue with the rest of this action. Okay, there we go, 100 pixel border. Okay, I'm going to go back up in my history, reset that, go back to this action, I'm going to run it again, and this time I'm going to follow this instruction. So I'm going to say stop, I'm going to go up to select, modify border, and I'll make it 50 pixels, so okay, it's now selected. Before I run play, it told me I must select fill and push play. Okay, so it'll give me an option to either have a default run or customize specific to the document I want. It's important to remember to skip that border. If I don't skip the border, let me just run this again, play. If I stop that and I go here and I change the border width to 50 pixels, I'll say okay, and I don't follow the step to skip this border, it's going to run this one as well. So I'm going to say play, and it's going to actually increase this again by another 100. Well, from the selection inwards, it's going to make it 100 pixels. So it's going to give not the right choice. So it's basically 50 pixels plus 100 pixels. It's even a thicker border now. So you're going to have to either switch that off, or like it says, when it stops there, jump over to your fill and then run it again from there. So that's basically running your creating an action with a specific size or generic size, and then being able to customize that size specific to your documents. Now onto what I think most of us are waiting for, is to create a watermark. I'm going to just show you in the sidelines here. I'm going to close these documents out quickly. Don't save and don't save. And I'm going to show you a template I've made previously. So I'm going to open up a document I have sitting on my desktop. What did I call this document? Vignette template. Okay, so I'm going to open this document. This is basically the look that I want to put onto all of my images. I don't want my vignette to be overpowering my text, so I'm going to actually, let me just leave it. Or we can turn around. I'm going to put it below. As you can see, when I moved it down, it's below the vignette. It's now the vignette's below the logo, and this is the look I want to have. Okay, this background I want it to blend. I've only left it on the blending mode to normal, just so you can see it. If I put it onto the blending mode that I actually want, soft light, it's going to disappear, so you won't actually see it there. So I'm going to just leave it on normal for now, just so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to save that to my desktop. So this is the template file that I'm going to draw information from for my action that I'm going to apply to my other photos. So I'm going to close this out, and I'm going to open an original document. This template has been created for a specific size, so it's not a generic. It's not going to fit every single document size. If I wanted to, I could create this in a way that it would be able to be applied to landscape pictures, portrait pictures, but at the moment it's just going to be applied to a portrait image. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my filing system in Bridge, and I'm going to open up a standard size image. Let me just go to my pictures here, and I'm going to open up this picture here. This is because I want to apply this to images that come out of my camera. I'm going to apply it to a raw file. It's the exact resolution and image size that I want to use or for my actions. So I'm going to open this raw file up. It's going to open in Raw Editor or Camera Raw, which is the Adobe raw editing software. I'm going to just say open image into Photoshop, and I'm going to create my template using this file as a base to take measurements from. Okay, I'm going to now create a new action. I'll call this one watermark. Hit enter or hit record, and it's now recording what I do. So I'm going to now open command or control O, not 0, control O for open, and I'm going to go to my desktop and find that template that I made called vignette. I'm going to open it. I'm including the open part of this into my action because I might forget to open it before I run the action. So part of the action is going to be opening this file. I'm going to then tell it which layer to select. So I'm going to start by selecting, I'm going to click down to 3 and select layer 2 again just to make sure I'm on the right layer. And I'm going to tell it to select everything in this window. So Control A or Command A will select everything on that layer. I'm going to copy it, Control C or Command C, and I'm going to go back to my original document and I'm going to paste it, Control or Command V. Okay, there's pasted it, and remember I said to you that I hadn't put the blending mode on. Now that it's on the document, I can add the blending mode, and I'm going to say soft light, and it will then subtly put it on so you'll see this vignetting towards the edges here. You can't really see it on this picture because this picture's already got quite a dark edging to it, but it will apply it on future images that I'll link it to. So now I'm going to go back to my template file. Every time I do anything, even changing documents, it's telling it here, selecting next document, so you can watch the actions happen here as I perform them. So now I'm going to select the next layer, layer 1, and it's already selected, so I don't have to say Command A or Control A to select all. It's already selected, so I'm just going to copy, Control or Command C, and I'm going to go back to my original window, and I'm going to paste this layer on here too. Okay, so I pasted it in the middle of my document. So what will be recorded as well is the movement I make on it. So I'm going to move it down, holding my shift button in to constrain it to the center position. Keep it centered. I'm going to bring it down right to the bottom. And I think that looks pretty healthy for a look that I want for all of my documents. So that is what I'm looking for. I'm going to go back to this document and I'm just going to close it out just to minimize the amount of documents that I have open so I don't use up all my memory. I'll close it out and it'll default come back to my original document. Now in this document I just want to flatten it, and that will be now my action complete. So I'll push stop and I can test it by going back to my history, click on the original document, and I can run my action by clicking on the title of the action and hit play. And it's now going to open the document, select the various layers that I wanted, copy them across, paste them onto that original document, and it's flattened. So see how quick that was compared to doing it manually yourself. Okay, it's important to remember, if I didn't mention, that you need to keep your template resource file that you're drawing information out of in a constant place with a constant name, because it's linking it here, showing the path to where that document is. If I move that document now or rename the document, this action will fail because it doesn't know where the document is. So create a folder in your drive called templates, and keep all your templates that aren't going to move or change into that thing. If you change your template, file, at least the file name will stay the same, so it will then run this action with the updated version of that template file. So if your logo changes, you can change it within the template, and when you run the action, it will then still bring in the latest logo. Okay, now that is my action created, complete. Now instead of opening 101 files individually, going here, file open, I'm opening a new file, and say open, and then running the action on this file. It's a very long process, so you can actually create a batch that will do that. So now, like I said, I've created this watermark specifically for a portrait document, a portrait image straight out of my camera. So I'm going to have to load files that suit the description of this document, because the dimensions won't be the same. Okay, so I'm going to close this window out. I'm not going to save that one, but I'm now going to show you how to do a batch process. So I can either select an action before I go into the batch process, just to shorten things up. You'll see now if I go into batch, I'll go File, Automate, and Batch. It'll then have this action already selected here in the action list. If that's not the action I want, I can then select the folder that I want, one of these folders here, and I can go and select the specific action that I'm looking for too. Okay, the folder that I want to run this action on, I'll go and choose that folder. It is a folder on my desktop called batch process. There's 5 JPEG images in there, so I'm just selecting the folder, I'm saying choose, and this will probably be on none as a destination. I want to use the same destination folder. I'm going to overwrite the files that are in there, so I'm just going to say save and close. Okay, I've created those JPEGs out of Camera Raw, so when it saves the document, it's going to actually run a save as, because it doesn't recognize the compression ratio that I want from Photoshop. So although it's a process, I'm going to have to still say OK on that batch process. So I've got this action selected. I'm going to say OK, and it's going to open all these documents in this folder and run this action on it. So hit OK, and there it goes. Okay, it's getting to close it. Actually, I don't think I had a close function in this, so it's going to have them all open eventually. I did have a close function, save and close. So it's asking what compression ratio I want. I'm just going to say OK, and it's going to save over the original file and put it in. So make sure you aren't actually literally saving over your originals. I've made a duplicate folder of my originals, so there are still pictures that exist without this watermark on it. So if I ever need to do changes to it, I can do changes to it. So it's running all these batches, so it's saving a lot of time having to open each picture individually, manually put the watermark on it. Like I say, the only reason that this JPEG option is coming up is because I haven't natively saved these JPEGs out of Photoshop. I saved them from Camera Raw. Had I saved it from Photoshop, we would just process them without any questions. I'll after I've done this process, I'll show you again. I see some of the pictures here I've cropped, so you'll see that the watermark didn't work properly on those images. So this one I've also cropped smaller. So let's go to the folder that has these process pictures in them. We see the files now that have been run. So you can see how it's placed this template exactly on these ones. These are straight out of camera ones. This one here, and this one, and this one, I've actually cropped the image smaller than the original size. So like I said, that's watermark was run specifically for that size. This size isn't the same, it's slightly smaller, so the watermark is now extending outside of the boundaries. So that's one aspect of, or the one drawback of creating your action. You need to try and make your action as universal as possible, so regardless of the file size, it's going to apply it correctly. And that's pretty much batch processing. So we have just your overview, we have creating your action here. Keep it universal, don't make specific sizes. With the watermark, I've personally made a portrait watermark and a landscape watermark depending on the different type of file that's running. And because I don't watermark all of my images, I usually only watermark the ones that I'm putting on the web, and so I would divide them up into landscape or portrait folders and run a landscape or portrait watermark on those folders. There's many ways of doing it. Just find your preference and you can run it from there. But this running actions, it'll take a bit of getting used to as to how it works to get an action to run properly, but once you have your action set up, it's going to save you so many hours of your workflow.